Evan held the tiny creature close to his chest as he moved deeper into the glowing forest. He tried to stay calm, but his heart beat hard against his ribs. Every sound, every flicker of light, made him more alert. The creature trembled in his arms, and Evan could feel its fear. Something was coming for it, something dangerous. Behind him, the sharp crack of a branch broke the silence again. Evan turned quickly, but the trees stood still, their glowing leaves swaying gently. Nothing moved. Yet he felt watched. He felt hunted. The creature tugged softly at his shirt with its small paw, pointing toward a narrow path between two thick trees. Evan nodded and followed the path, moving quietly and quickly. The blue soil glowed under his feet, marking his steps like gentle lights. He whispered to the creature, "Don't worry. I won't let anything happen to you." The creature looked up at him with its bright changing eyes, blue fading into purple, then back to blue again. It made a soft clicking sound, like a small warning. Evan walked faster. Suddenly, a loud shout echoed through the forest. Not human. Not friendly. The voice was deep, rough, and filled with anger. Evan froze. The creature pressed itself harder against him. Then another shout came. And another. Multiple voices. They spoke a language he didn't understand. But the tone was clear. They were searching. And they were closing in. Evan began to run. He dodged between glowing rocks and tall grass as the forest. Lights danced around him. His breath came sharp. The creature kept tugging, giving tiny signals, guiding him left, right, anywhere away from danger. But the hunters were fast. Branches snapped behind him. Heavy feet thudded against the ground. Evan risked a glance over his shoulder, and his blood ran cold. Dark shapes moved between the trees. Tall figures wearing armor made of strange dark plates. Their eyes glowed red. Some carried long glowing spears. Others had sharp energy blades humming in their hands. One of them shouted something and pointed at Evan. They had found him. Evan ran harder, weaving through the forest. The creature clicked urgently, warning him when the hunters got too close. One spear hit a tree beside him, exploding into sparks. Evan stumbled, nearly falling, but kept running. He spotted a cluster of giant roots twisting out of the ground like a natural shelter. Without thinking, he slid under the roots, holding the creature still. They hid in the shadows, Evan breathing fast, sweat rolling down his forehead. The hunters approached. Their red eyes glowed like small fires in the dark. They examined the area, speaking in low, angry voices. One of them knelt down near a footprint on the blue soil. Evan held his breath. The creature pressed its glowing fur against him. Then something strange happened. The creature began to glow, softly, its light spreading out like a warm mist. The glowing mist crawled over the roots and soil, dimming Evan's tracks, erasing them. Evan stared in shock. The creature was using some kind of power to hide them. The hunters looked around, confused. One of them growled and slammed his spear against the ground, frustrated. Another sniffed the air, then shook his head. Slowly they moved away, their voices fading. Evan did not move until the forest grew quiet again. When he finally crawled out from under the roots, he looked at the creature in awe. "You saved us," he whispered. The creature looked tired. Its glow faded. It curled against his chest, making the soft, weak sound. Evan could tell the power had drained it. He needed to get somewhere safe. He walked deeper into the forest until he reached a small river with glowing stones along its edges. The water was clear, and soft blue lights drifted inside it like tiny swimming stars. Evan sat down, letting the creature rest, but before he could relax, he heard a new sound, the low hum of something metal. Evan looked up across the river. On a high hill, he saw a group of hunters standing with their leader. The leader was taller than the rest, covered in thick armor decorated with red symbols. His eyes glowed brighter than the others. He held a long spear with a red crystal at its tip. The leader raised the spear. and pointed it in Evan's direction. Then he spoke in a deep, shaking voice filled with anger. She must not return to her true form again. Evan felt his chest tighten. Her true form? What did that mean? He looked down at the tiny creature in his arms. She was small, weak, and innocent looking. But the hunters acted like she was something powerful, something dangerous. Evan stood up slowly, holding her close. "I don't know what you are," he whispered to her, "but I'm not leaving you." The wind blew softly across the river as the leader's red eyes locked onto Evan. The hunt was not over. It had only just begun. Evan held the tiny glowing creature close to his chest as he moved deeper into the alien forest. Every step felt heavier than the last. The forest no longer felt calm. The air had changed. It was thicker, darker, and filled with a quiet warning. Even the bright plants seemed to lean away from the direction he came from. As if afraid of something following him, the little creature made a soft sound, a tiny trembling noise. Evan gently stroked its warm fur. "I've got you," he whispered. "You're safe with me." But he did not believe his own words. Because behind him, something was coming. At first, it was quiet footsteps. Then the faint sound of armor brushing against tree bark. Then deep voices that did not belong to anything friendly. Evan's breathing grew sharp. His mind raced. He had no weapons, no hiding place yet, and no idea who was hunting them. But he knew one thing for sure. Whoever they were, they wanted the creature he held. He walked faster, pushing aside glowing leaves and ducking under tall tree roots. His boots sank into the soft blue soil, leaving bright footprints. He knew the hunters could follow them easily. The creature tugged at his shirt with its tiny paw, pointing to the right. Evan turned in that direction, trusting the little being more than his own instincts. It seemed to know the forest well too well. But then the forest suddenly changed. The path ended. A wide open space appeared in front of him, a perfect circle covered in glowing symbols. The symbols pulsed like a heartbeat. The light brightened, then dimmed, then brightened again. The creature in his arms let out a soft cry. Not of pain, of recognition. Evan stepped forward slowly. The moment his foot touched the circle, the entire ground lit up in bright white light. He froze. A deep rumble rolled through the trees. The light climbed up the trunks and across the branches. The whole forest shivered as if alive. Evan felt the air pulling toward him like a quiet wind. But the wind was moving away from the creature. The creature curled tighter into his chest. Evan could feel it shaking. Then the voices came, not behind him, all around him. Low, whispering voices in a strange alien language. Some sounded angry. Some sounded afraid. It felt like the forest was whispering warnings. But Evan could not understand the words. The shadows around the circle stretched and twisted, and then he saw them. Figures in dark armor stepped out from behind the trees, tall, sharp, and silent. Their armor was carved with red symbols. Their helmets hid their faces, but their eyes glowed like burning coals. They formed a wide ring around the circle, trapping Evan inside. He took a step back, hugging the creature tightly. "What do you want?" he shouted. None of them answered, but one stepped forward taller than the rest. With heavier armor and a long spear, made of dark metal, Evan swallowed hard. The leader's glowing eyes focused on the creature in his arms. Slowly, he raised the spear. The creature gave a frightened cry and hid its face in Evan's shirt. The leader spoke in a low, deep voice, each word sharp like a blade. "Return." "The marked one." Evan shook his head immediately. "No, she's hurt. I'm not giving her to you." The leader tilted his head slightly, studying Evan as if confused by his refusal. Then he lowered the spear and said something in a different language. The warriors around the circle stepped closer. Evan panicked. "Stay back." He ran to the edge of the circle, but a wall of force pushed him back, knocking him to his knees. It wasn't a physical wall, it was energy. Glowing like the symbols on the ground. The circle was a trap. The hunters had been guiding him toward it the entire time. The leader spoke again, his voice harder now. The marked one must not awaken. Evan looked down at the creature. Her eyes were glowing far brighter than before, bright purple, bright blue, mixing like swirling light. Her silver markings pulsed with soft energy. She looked innocent, small, harmless. Yet something inside her was powerful. Evan touched her gently. Awaken? What does that mean? The creature whimpered and reached a tiny paw toward his cheek. Her touch was warm. For a moment, Evan felt a sudden rush of emotion, not from himself, but from her. Fear, sadness, loneliness. A wave of heat burst from her body. The symbols on the ground flickered. The hunters stepped back in alarm. The leader shouted, "Stop the surge!" Evan did not understand any of this. But he understood one thing. They wanted to harm her. He stood up, holding the creature close. "I won't let you take her." With a sudden burst of courage, he sprinted straight toward the weak point between two hunters. They tried to grab him, but the creature let out a loud ringing cry. Light exploded around Evan, throwing the hunters off balance. Evan ran. Branches whipped past him. The forest blurred. The shouts behind him grew smaller. The creature's glow dimmed again. Exhausted, Evan held her tighter. He didn't know how long he could protect her, but he knew he had to try. Evan did not stop running until his legs felt like fire. His chest rose and fell with heavy breaths, and sweat dripped down his face. The glowing creature in his arms was quiet now, its light dim and weak. Whatever energy it had used to push the hunters back had drained it completely. He slowed down and walked toward a cluster of giant roots, twisted together like a natural cave. The roots formed a small, safe space beneath them. Evan slipped inside and gently placed the creature on a soft patch of moss. The moss glowed faintly, giving the space a warm green light. "Hey," he whispered softly, kneeling down beside her. "Are you okay? Come on, little one. Stay with me." The creature opened her glowing eyes, but only halfway. Her breathing was shallow, like she was struggling. Evan touched her gently, brushing her soft fur. Her tiny paw slowly lifted and rested on his wrist. Weak but trusting, Evan's heart tightened. He had only known this creature for a short time, but he already felt a strong bond. She wasn't just an animal. She understood him. She reacted to danger. She guided him when he needed direction. She tried to protect him, even when she was small and scared. He looked around the root shelter. Outside, the forest was calm, but he knew it was not safe. Somewhere out there, the armored hunters searched for them. He didn't know who they were, but their leader's words echoed in his mind. The marked one must not awaken. Awaken? What did that mean? Was this creature hiding something inside her? Something powerful? Something they feared? Evan leaned back against a root and closed his eyes for a moment. He needed rest, even if only for a few minutes. But the forest did not let him relax. The moment he closed his eyes, the creature moved. Her small body glowed softly, then brighter. Evan opened his eyes and sat up quickly. The creature crawled weakly into his lap and placed her paw directly on his chest. Suddenly, Evan felt a warm wave inside his body. It was not painful. It was like someone poured warm water into his heart. His mind filled with soft lights, echoes, feelings. Emotions that were not his. Fear, sadness, loneliness, hope. He gasped. The creature was sharing something with him, not words. Not pictures, but feelings. Her emotions hit him like quiet whispers. Evan understood them instantly, like they were his own. She was scared. She was hunted. She was alone for a very long time, and then he felt something else. A soft emotion. A warm one. Trusted him fully. She believed he would protect her. She chose him. Evan looked into her glowing eyes. I'm here, he said softly. I won't leave you. I promise. The light faded, and the creature finally relaxed, curling into a small ball on his lap. Evan placed his jacket over her, like a blanket. He stroked her soft fur until her breathing grew steady. Minutes passed. Then, something strange happened. Her glowing markings began to pulse again, not fast but steady, almost peaceful. Evan watched closely. The markings created a pattern he hadn't noticed before. A shape, a symbol. It glowed across her fur like a faint tattoo. What are you? Evan whispered. He leaned closer, studying the symbol. It looked almost like a crown. Suddenly, a soft humming sound came from outside the root shelter. Evan tensed up. He quickly pulled his jacket around the creature and held her close. The humming grew louder. Something hovered above the roots. Evan peeked through a small opening. A floating drone passed overhead made of black metal with red glowing eyes. It scanned the ground, searching. The hunters were using machines now. Evan held his breath. The drone paused above the roots. Evan felt his stomach twist. He tightened his grip on the creature and waited. The drone clicked twice, scanned the area again, and moved on. Evan released a shaky breath. When he looked down, the creature was staring at him again. Her eyes calmer now, no longer filled with fear. She placed her paw on his hand again, as if thanking him. For the first time since he found her, she made a tiny sound, a soft purr-like noise, warm and gentle. Evan smiled. You're getting better, he whispered. But then he noticed something. The creature was growing warmer. Her body began to glow again, brighter this time. Evan leaned forward, concerned. Hey, easy. Don't push yourself. But it was already happening. The glow grew, covering her whole body. The air inside the root shelter buzzed like electricity. Evan shielded his face. The creature stretched, her small body changing shape, growing longer. Taller, light exploded for a moment, when it faded. Evan's breath caught in his throat. In front of him, still weak, still trembling, was not a small creature anymore. It was the silhouette of a young girl. Humanoid, soft features, long glowing hair, delicate markings across her skin. She looked fragile, but beautiful. Evan whispered, barely able to speak. You're not an animal at all. For several long seconds, Evan could not move. He stared at the glowing silhouette in front of him, unsure if he was dreaming or awake. The little creature he had carried, protected, and comforted, was now transforming into a humanoid girl right before his eyes. Light still shimmered around her like soft dust floating in the air. The girl's form flickered, unstable. Her legs trembled. Her hands shook as if she had never used them before. She tried to take a step but stumbled. Evan quickly reached out and caught her before she could fall. Her skin felt warm, softer than he expected. Her hair glowed like strands of silver moonlight. Her face, though weak, was beautiful, so delicate that Evan feared touching her might break her. She looked up at him with the same eyes he had seen on the creature, blue and purple light swirling gently inside. Those eyes were full of confusion, fear, and trust. Evan swallowed. It's really you, he whispered. You were never an animal. The girl tried to speak, but no sound came out. Her lips moved, trembling. She shook her head in frustration, then pressed a hand against her throat. Evan understood she could not talk yet. Maybe her voice was not ready. Maybe she needed more time. He wrapped his jacket around her shoulders. It's okay, he said softly. You don't have to speak. I'm here. The girl leaned slightly against him, exhausted. Her breathing was uneven, like she was fighting to stay conscious. Evan gently helped her sit down on the glowing moss. She curled up, hugging her knees, still shivering. Evan sat beside her, keeping his voice calm. Can you understand me? Slowly. She nodded. Relief washed over him. Good, then listen. Those hunters out there, they want to hurt you. They're looking for you right now. We need to stay quiet and keep you safe." Her fingers tightened around the edge of his jacket. Her eyes filled with fear. Evan reached out, brushing a lock of glowing hair from her face. "Don't worry. I won't let them take you." The girl watched him, then lifted her hand weakly and placed it on his chest, the same place she had touched when she was in her creature form. Again, a warm pulse spread through him. But this time, it was sharper, more controlled. He felt a message, a feeling, move into him, a plea. "Help me." Evan nodded. "I will." But before he could say more, a sharp noise echoed through the forest, a metallic snap. Then a hum. Then red light. Evan froze. Outside the root shelter, red beams cut through the air. Shadows moved fast, heavy shadows. The hunters were close again. The girl covered her glowing skin with his jacket, trying to hide the light. She made a tiny soft whimper. Evan placed a finger gently over her lips. Quiet. They can't find us." But he was not sure. The sound of armor grew louder. Heavy footsteps shook the ground. Evan peeked through one of the small gaps between the roots. His blood turned cold. 3 hunters. They walked slowly, scanning the area with glowing red devices. Their voices were low and tense. One knelt down and touched the soil with 2 fingers. His fingers glowed, showing fresh footprints. Evan's footprints. The girl pressed herself closer to Evan. Her small, glowing hand slipped into his for comfort. He squeezed gently, trying to calm her. One of the hunters stood only meters away. Red light from his visor scanned the ground. Then he turned toward the root shelter. Evan stopped breathing. The hunter took 1 step, another step, and then crouched down. He reached toward the roots. The girl covered her mouth, shaking. At that moment, the forest lights flickered. The hunter paused and looked up. A distant horn sounded far away, but loud enough to distract him. The hunter growled, turned, and signaled to the others. They moved away. Evan didn't relax until their footsteps faded completely. When he turned back to the girl, he found her staring at him with wide eyes. Her body shook, not from fear only, but from weakness. Her form flickered again, her legs turning back into faint lines of light for a moment. Evan held her shoulders. "Hey, stay with me. Don't transform back. It's hurting you." She shook her head weakly and touched her chest, where the glowing symbol marked her skin. Evan recognized it. It was the same crown-like symbol he saw in her creature form. Then she pressed her forehead to his and closed her eyes. A rush of images hit Evan's mind, not clear, but sharp enough. A throne, a bright palace, a girl laughing, then enemies breaking inside. A curse of light. Her falling, shrinking, turning into a small creature, running, hiding, being hunted. Evan gasped. She pulled back, breathing hard. You're important," Evan whispered. "You're someone powerful. That's why they want you." She nodded weakly. Evan took a deep breath. "Okay, then we'll protect you. But you need rest. And I need answers." He lifted her carefully and held her close. Outside, the hunters grew louder again. The girl's glow dimmed. Evan held her tighter, whatever she truly was. Whatever danger chased her, he was not letting her face it alone. The forest grew cold as night settled over the land. Evan carried the weak, glowing girl in his arms, her trembling body wrapped in his jacket. She had fallen silent now, too tired even to keep her eyes open. Her glow dimmed with every passing minute, like a fading lantern struggling to stay alive. Evan's heart ached. "Just hold on," he whispered softly. "I'll find help. I promise." But he had no idea where help existed on this strange planet. He moved deeper into the forest, guided only by the faint glow of the girl's markings. They pulsed slowly, almost like a heartbeat. Evan knew she had used too much power while escaping the hunters. If she lost more energy, she might transform back or worse. He stopped beside a wide river with shimmering water. The river glowed with gentle blue light, reflecting the stars above. The air here felt different, peaceful, safe. Evan gently laid the girl on soft moss near the water. She curled into a small ball. Shivering, Evan dipped his hands into the glowing river and brought water to her lips. She drank weakly, her small hands reaching toward him like a child seeking comfort. He brushed her hair back. "You're strong," he whispered. "You survived so much already." Suddenly, a twig snapped behind him. Evan spun around instantly. Fists tight, but it wasn't a hunter. An old alien stepped out from the shadows, thin, tall, and dressed in tattered robes made of woven leaves. His skin was pale blue, and long white markings ran down his arms. He held a staff that glowed faintly. Evan stepped protectively in front of the girl. "Stay back," he said. The old alien raised both hands calmly. "I mean no harm, human." Evan didn't lower his guard. "Who are you?" The alien slowly approached the river's edge. His voice was gentle, filled with sadness. "I am called Eldrin, and I have been searching for that girl for many years." Evan tightened his fists. "Are you with those hunters?" Eldrin shook his head quickly. "No, I am nothing like them. I serve the old kingdom, the one she was born to lead." Evan froze. "Lead? She's just a girl." Eldrin looked at the girl's glowing markings and whispered with deep emotion. "She is not just a girl, human. She is the lost princess of Lumira, the last child of the royal bloodline." Evan's breath caught. Princess? The tiny creature he rescued? The small being that curled up on his lap? The frightened girl who shared her emotions with him? She was royalty? Evan shook his head. But why was she like a small animal? Eldrin's eyes filled with pain. Because she was cursed. The enemy clan attacked the palace. They wanted her throne, her powers, her lineage. They used forbidden magic and forced her into a weakened form. Evan looked down at the girl. She lay still on the moss, breathing softly. Her glow flickered gently as if listening. Eldrin continued, "In her true form, her power is too great. Her light is born from ancient energy. If she awakens fully, the enemy clan fears she will reclaim her throne." Evan frowned. "So they want to kill her?" "No," Eldrin whispered. "They want to keep her trapped, forever, neither alive nor free." Evan clenched his fists. "That's evil." Eldrin nodded. "Yes, they chase her because they want control. And she runs because she wants to live." Evan looked down at her again. She seemed so fragile now. Her hair glowed faintly. Her chest rose and fell weakly. She looked peaceful but broken, hurt, alone. Eldrin knelt beside her and touched the symbol on her chest. "This mark, the royal crest of Lumira. Only the true princess carries it." Evan swallowed hard. "Can you help her?" Eldrin closed his eyes. "I can help her regain strength. But only one thing can fully break the curse." Evan leaned in. "What?" "Trust," Eldrin said softly. "The curse weakens when she bonds deeply with someone who truly cares for her. Someone who sees her not as a princess, but as a person." Evan blinked. "She bonded with me." "Yes," Eldrin whispered. "You kept her safe. You fed her. You carried her. You held her even when you were scared. She chose you. Her light responds to you." Evan's heart thumped hard. Why me? Why did she trust him? As if hearing his thoughts, the girl slowly opened her glowing eyes. She looked at Evan weakly and lifted her hand toward him. Evan took her hand gently. A soft light spread between their palms. Eldrin smiled sadly. "See? Her soul recognizes yours." Suddenly, the ground shook. Eldrin's smile vanished. A horn sounded in the distance loud. Powerful, angry, Eldrin whispered with fear. The hunters have found us. Evan lifted the princess into his arms. I won't let them take her, he growled. Eldrin nodded firmly. Then prepare yourself, human. The true war begins now. The night air trembled as the sound of the distant horn echoed again, louder than before. Evan held the princess tightly in his arms, feeling her weak breathing against his chest. Eldrin, the old alien, gripped his glowing staff with shaking hands. They are close, Eldrin whispered. Too close. Evan looked around the glowing riverbank, his heart pounding. The water shimmered like liquid stars, reflecting fear in every ripple. The forest lights dimmed, as if nature itself sensed the danger approaching. The princess rested her head against Evan's shoulder. Her glowing hair spread across his jacket. She looked fragile, too fragile for someone hunted by an army. Her markings flickered like a dying flame. We need to move, Evan said. But Eldrin stepped in front of him. If we run now, they will catch us within minutes. Their machines are faster than anything on this planet. Then what do we do? Evan asked. Eldrin looked at the princess, sadness in his old eyes. She must awaken. She must regain her true strength. Evan shook his head. But she's too weak. She could die. Eldrin's voice broke. If she does not awaken, she will die anyway. The curse is tightening. Her light is fading. Evan looked down at her. Her eyelids fluttered, her breathing shallow. She was slipping away. He could feel it. Suddenly, she reached up with trembling fingers and touched his cheek. Her glow pulsed softly. Her eyes opened, weak but full of trust. She wanted to try. Evan closed his eyes tightly. Okay, he whispered, voice cracking. I'll help you. Whatever you need, I'll help. The princess lifted her other hand toward Eldrin. The old alien placed his staff beside her, and a soft hum filled the air. Eldrin spoke, his voice deep and ancient. Princess of Lumira, Lightburn child, awaken your true soul. A pulse of bright blue spread across the moss. Evan felt warmth rise through his arms, into his chest, into his heart. He looked down and realized her markings were glowing brighter than before, stronger, bolder, but her body was shaking violently. Evan held her closer. Stay with me. Don't give up. The ground vibrated again, this time from heavy footsteps. The hunters were getting closer. Eldrin raised his staff, planting it into the soil. The awakening must finish before they arrive. A bright circle of light formed around them, rising into the air like a barrier. The princess suddenly cried out, not in fear, but in effort. Light burst from her chest, spreading across the river, lighting up the trees, shaking the ground. Her small body lifted slightly from Evan's arms, floating a few inches above his lap. Evan panicked and grabbed her hand, refusing to let go. It's okay, he shouted. You're not alone. Her eyes glowed brighter, full of light, full of emotion. Memories flashed through Evan's mind again, but clearer now. Her running as a child, her laughing with her mother, her training in a sunlit palace, the night of the attack, the curse of shrinking light, her fear, her loneliness, her hope. When Evan picked her up for the first time, Evan gasped softly. She wasn't just awakening her power. She was sharing her life with him. Eldrin watched with wide eyes. She is choosing you. You are becoming her anchor. Evan didn't know what that meant. He didn't care. He held her hand tighter. And then, the forest exploded with red light. Dozens of hunters marched into the clearing. Their armor burned with glowing symbols. Their leader stepped forward, holding the long spear with the red crystal. Stop the awakening. He roared. He pointed his spear at Evan. Kill the human. The hunters charged. Evan instinctively shielded the princess with his body. Eldrin lifted his staff, shooting a wave of energy that slowed the attackers but could not stop them. The princess' glow grew brighter, blindingly bright. Her voice finally came, soft but strong. Enough. The light burst outward. A shockwave hit the hunters, throwing them across the clearing. Trees snapped. The river exploded into sparkles of blue. The leader stumbled backward, dropping to one knee. Evan stared in awe. The princess floated higher, wrapped in a shining aura. Her form stabilized, no longer flickering. Her hair flowed like silver fire. Her eyes glowed brighter than stars. She had awakened. Slowly, she lowered to the ground, stepping gently onto the moss. Evan reached out to steady her, but she stood tall, now weak, but powerful. She looked at him and whispered in her new, soft voice, "You saved me." Evan felt warmth rise in his chest. "I just did what was right." The princess turned toward the hunters, eyes fierce. The leader growled, "You cannot win. We will take you." But she raised her hand. Light rippled across the ground. "No," she said. "You will not take anything from me ever again." The leader froze. So did the entire forest. The forest stood frozen under the weight of the princess's awakening light. The tall trees glowed faintly. The blue river shimmered with quiet waves, and every creature in the shadows held its breath. Even the wind dared not move. The awakened princess stepped forward, her glowing feet touching the moss with soft light. Her long silver hair drifted behind her like a thin veil of stars. Her eyes, bright with blue and purple swirls, stayed fixed on the hunter leader who had chased her for so long. The hunters tried to stand, but the shockwave had broken their formation. Their leader pushed himself to his feet, glaring at her with burning red eyes. "You cannot rule Lumira," he growled. "Your light died the night we cursed you." The princess raised her hand gently. The glowing markings across her arms pulsed with quiet strength. Her voice was calm but filled with power. "My light never died," she said. "You merely dimmed it." The leader charged at her with his red crystal spear raised high. The ground shook under his steps. Evan ran forward instinctively. "Princess, look out!" But she did not move. At the last moment, she lifted her fingers slightly. A thin wave of blue energy spread through the air. The spear shattered like fragile glass. The leader fell to his knees, staring in shock at the glowing dust drifting down. You were too weak to do that before," he whispered. "I was alone," she replied softly. "Now I am not." Her eyes shifted toward Evan, warm, grateful, and full of something deeper. The leader growled and pushed himself back up. "You think a single human can make you strong? You think he can protect you?" The princess stepped closer, her glow growing brighter with each breath. "He did. He protected me when I was small and helpless. He cared for me before he knew who I was. And I chose him." Evan froze. "Chose me?" The princess touched her chest gently. "My light awakened because of our bond. You held my heart when it was breaking. You gave me strength when I had none." Evan felt his throat tighten. He didn't know what to say. The leader shouted, "Then he will fall with you." He raised a dagger this time, smaller but glowing with dark energy. Evan took a step forward, ready to protect her again, but the princess lifted her hand gently. "Evan," she whispered, "stay with Eldrin." He wanted to argue, but her voice held a calm certainty he could not refuse. He stepped back, standing beside the old alien. The leader lunged toward the princess, and the ground erupted. Light exploded from the princess's chest, swirling around her like a living storm. Blue sparks danced across her skin. Her eyes glowed so brightly that Evan could hardly look at them. With a soft motion of her hand, the light wrapped around the leader like thin chains. He let out a scream of rage as the glowing bonds held him in place. "You hunted me since I was a child," she said quietly. "You broke my home. You cursed my body. You stole my peace." The leader struggled violently. "You cannot rule." The princess stepped closer, her voice gentle but sharp like a blade. I will not rule with anger. I will not rule with fear. I will rule with light. She lifted her hand one last time. The glowing chains pulsed, and then the leader was gone, not dead, but trapped inside a crystal of frozen light at the edge of the clearing. The remaining hunters stared in horror. They dropped their weapons and ran into the forest, disappearing into the shadows. Silence returned. Evan slowly approached the princess. She turned to him with a tired smile. The bright light around her faded, leaving her standing in her soft humanoid form, glowing only gently now. You saved me, she whispered. Evan shook his head. No, you saved yourself. I just helped. She stepped closer, her eyes filled with emotion. You risked your life for me when you didn't even know my name. What is your name? Evan asked softly. She smiled a small, warm smile. Lyra. Evan repeated it quietly. Lyra. It's beautiful. Lyra took his hands in hers. Evan, will you stay with me? The kingdom will rise again. I need someone I trust. Someone who believes in kindness, not power. Eldrin stepped forward and bowed deeply. Lyra, Princess of Lumira, the people will follow you again. And if this human stands beside you, they will see hope. Evan looked at Lyra's glowing eyes, soft and bright. I'm not a warrior, he said. Lyra squeezed his hands gently. You are more than that. You are the first person who ever saw me. Not as a princess, not as a creature, but as someone worth saving. Evan's heart warmed. He nodded slowly. Then yes, I will stay. I'll protect you. I'll help rebuild your home. Lyra smiled, brighter than any star in the forest. Then, let the new light of Lumira begin. The river glowed. The forest shined. And the princess and her human guardian stepped forward together toward a future shaped by trust, courage, and light.